Hello and welcome to my second review for Montober 2019. Arachnophobia came out in 1991. Stars Jeff Daniels, Julian Sands, John Goodman, Harley Jane Kozak, and tells the tale of a deadly species of spider that hitches a ride in a coffin from a rainforest in South America to a small town on the west coast called Canaima. The movie begins with a photographer, Jerry Manley, who has been hired to photograph for an expedition led by a theologist played by Julian Sands. And right away we see something's up that the native guide is terrified to go into this area. They quickly discover a new species of spider that the pesticide they sprayed into the tree only stuns. A nice hint at how resilient these spiders are going to be. And they're being watched by a much bigger spider. These spiders are kind of similar-ish to a beehive, only there's a mating pair, a male and a female. The male is the general, and the general was done parts dummy, animatronic puppet, and real spider. For the real spider, they used a Goliath bird eater that the staff named Big Bob. They had to be careful shooting with the real spider because, contrary to you would think, a Goliath bird eater's fangs aren't its biggest risk. It would be painful, but you'd live. Same thing with its biggest threat, but because it's a new world, it has what's called urticating hairs. It'll kick hairs, and if they get in your eyes, they can blind you. But the photographer is actually got a cold at the time. And after the initial part of the expedition, Julian Sands' character, who's a little bit of a jerk but still an okay guy, just tells him to get some rest. And as he's resting, the general bites him. He dies, and he gets shipped back home in a casket, but the general catches a ride with him. The general escapes at a mortuary and gets picked up by a crow, which it bites and falls on a piece of property just brought by Jeff Daniels' character. Again, fun fact, that fall would have killed that spider. Spiders that big, their abdomens are really just a thin bag of guts, and the general would have splattered everywhere, but this is a movie and we gotta have a threat. That night, the general breeds with a common house spider and creates a reproductive offspring, and they go on to breed and make hyper-lethal babies of their own, where just one bite will kill you within seconds. And mysterious deaths start happening. Unfortunately for Jeff Daniels' character, most of the people dying are people he's seen, because he's the new town doctor, or at least he was gonna be before the old doctor refused to retire. Kind of a crotchety old jerk, but someone that does care for his patients in his own right, because when the first one dies, he refuses to accept that she switched doctors, and then there's a whole hoo-ha over the autopsy, and the town sheriff lets him sign off, calls a death heart attack. And Jeff Daniels, as these people are dying, he just wants autopsies to find out why. Eventually, the old doctor gets bitten, dies. His wife is played by the actress that played his wife also played the grandmother in Happy Gilmore. And then Jeff Daniels gets the autopsies. He gets in touch with a the West Coast leading atheologist, which just so happened to be Julian Sands' character, who sends an assistant, and they quickly, all these people have spider bites. They capture a spider and start putting two and two together and realize what must have happened. Oh, your boss was on an expedition to the Amazon. Did he have we had a photographer who was on an expedition, and they realized, one of these Venezuelan spiders must have hitched a ride to our little town. But this movie does have a lot of great humor to it. I'd even go as far as to say there's nothing really explicit in here. If you're looking for a good, fun horror movie to watch with your family, Arachnophobia is your answer. Now, fun little fact too, the spider on the cover here, the VHS and Blu-ray took the VHS and DVD removed the spider, which makes it look like Arachnophobia, a movie about a quiet night on the farm. But I do love this art. I'd love to have a poster of this. That is just a beautiful painting. Even just if it was a poster or a painting with the text clipped out and the spider removed, it would still be a beautiful picture. And that's another thing. This movie, if you're afraid of spiders, it adds an extra level of creep factor. Full of practical effects, John Goodman plays the town exterminator, and he's the comic relief character, but he still plays it straight enough that you can take this character seriously. I hear they're remaking it, and I could just see them hiring Melissa McCarthy to play that character and making the character a one-note joke. But the cast, is really well done. All the actors have great chemistry together. And the movie culminates with a really tense scene in Jeff Daniels' house, because they initially think the infestation begins at the mortuary, and Julian Sands explains, these spiders spread out in a web-like pattern from a central nest, so they go on their town and start circling where people were bit, and there's a house in the center, and they circle it, only it's not the mortuary, it's Jeff Daniels' house. Now, he initially correctly thinks the nest was in my barn, but John Goodman points out, no, not this time of year. A spider would find your barn too drafty. Well, they're both right. The nest started in his barn, but it moved to his basement. Now, when Julian Sands' character arrives, he ultimately sees a picture in Jeff Daniels' office of the web and finds out from the police officer it's in the barn. So he goes with a jar because he wants to capture the spider, and it's what I like. He straddles the line between nice guy and a jerk. Like, he snaps at Manly in the beginning for killing a spider, but also, after they're done, just go lay down, and wanting to know if the family was contacted after he died, but his first concern was still the pictures. But also, he does joke in one scene because they discover a new species of butterfly. We can call it Proteus manlii, which I like to think he did name that butterfly after Manly in memory of him. But he tries to capture the general and gets bitten, killed. John Goodman shows up and breaks out his personal stock, which is this corrosive pesticide, because he's seen one of the spiders earlier in the film, and the regular pesticide wouldn't do the work, so he's blasting spiders with this pesticide that burns whatever it hits. Jeff Daniels is trapped in the basement having to fend off the queen and the general, and it just makes for a lot of fun. This movie, I give a solid B plus, A minus, somewhere in between there. Like I said, it's a great fun horror film that's good for the whole family. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I got the Blu-ray for $10 with shipping and handling from eBay. It's a worthy addition to your collection, so don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for my next review, The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Over and out.